Hello, welcome to my first round recap of the 24-25 season. Before I'm going to show you my game, I want to give you a bit of the background of the league and the specific match and matchup. So in our league there are 10 teams, and the special situation is that from our club, our first and our second team are playing in that league. So for fair play reasons, of course, those two teams have to play each other. So our first round match was our first team against our second team. So I was playing on our first team on the 4th board. So typically I'm seated on the 7th board, but 3 players on the higher boards couldn't play. So I was moved up to the 4th board. And the playing strength difference of our two teams is pretty high. So on average, it's around 400 rating points difference. So the first team is a lot stronger. The matchup went also pretty one-sided. In my case, I have currently 1904 FIDE rating, and my opponent had 1686. So I'm a bit more than 200 points higher rated than he was. So it's relatively one-sided, but of course you still need to prove that you can win that. I was playing on the 4th board, so the home team always has the white pieces on the even boards, so I had here the white pieces. That's basically everything important to the matchup in general, I think. And now I just want to jump into my game and analyze it a bit with you, and also figure a bit out where there are still improvement advantages that I can figure out until the next round, or what I can do. So without much words, I'm just starting the game. So I opened the game with c4. So that is not surprising to anyone. I'm playing that as a first move basically since 20 years. So everyone who's seen one match of me will probably guess that this was happening. As a next move, my opponent played c6, also a pretty normal, expected move. And then I played here, from me personally, a different move. So I learned a long time ago to play here knight c3 as a next move, but here I tried to make a bit of a move or the difference and play g3. So the idea is here to basically avoid playing an early knight c3, so that in the next moves it does not make much sense for the black pieces to move their dark squared bishop to the b4 square, so where they could normally pin the c3 knight to my king and exchange it. So I want to avoid that situation. I mean, you can also avoid it by playing a3, but you can also avoid the situation by just delaying the move knight to c3, and that is basically the idea, the opening variation that I'm a bit trying out, because I just want to figure out if that fits me better than the other variation. So my opponent is playing here e6. I was expecting a bit earlier the d5 move, but it's also a preparation move for d5, so nothing too special here. I play bishop to g2, just also normal development move in that opening. My opponent still did not play d5, but played here the knight to f6, so a bit surprising to me, but also nothing really strange. In this situation, I was thinking a bit, okay, should I play knight to f3 so that I can castle and so on, because when I castle I can move the knight to c3, because then it cannot be pinned and so on. But I decided no, when my opponent does not move anything into the center, I should do it. So then I decided basically to play d4, because the d pawn you basically always played to d4, so it cannot be wrong. Okay, so in this situation, my opponent played the d5 move, which I expected, and here I was, on that move I was a bit wasting time. So it's a totally typical move, but in this situation I really wasted a lot of time because I was not really sure what to do. So I did not want to trade my c and his d pawn. But yeah, also playing c5 did not really look great. I thought about, okay, maybe queen c2 to support that pawn, but then the d4 pawn is currently unprotected. I did not want to move knight to f3 to keep it completely unprotected. That's the recommendation of the computer. So I was also thinking about moving the pawn to c5, but then we can just play b6, attack it again, and if I take, then the queen comes to b6 and double attacks d4 pawn and the b2 pawn, and so everything was not looking that great. So I wasted some time. And then I thought, okay, then I should make the easiest move that I thought cannot be so wrong or so bad, because I do not want to get in time disadvantage. So I decided to make a move that I did not really want to play, but I took here. The idea was that he will probably take with either the c or the e pawn. And with both I'm kind of fine, so those are relatively normal positions that I know. So just clarify the situation. It's probably not that bad. So the computer says, okay, e pawn takes d pawn is already a bit of an advantage for the black pieces, but okay, this is a situation where I can a bit improve my opening knowledge, but it's not that such a big catastrophe in this game. And here my opponent made something surprising for me, and it's also not a good move, so he took here with a knight. Okay, that was surprising. I did not know what to do here, but the answer is relatively obvious. So playing e4 is getting another pawn into the center, and it's attacking the knight to move it out. So that was a relatively obvious move in this situation. So I played just e4 to attack the knight. And here he again made a bit of a surprising move. For me, it's not a bad move, but it was a bit surprising for me. So he played just straight the bishop to b4 with a check. And this pretty much played into my hands, or into my ideas, because I wanted to in general I wanted to get rid of his bishop, but not for my knight that should go to c3. So I was kind of happy that he played that move, so I could just trade down the bishops. So I played my bishop to d2. Here it's pretty much forced to trade the piece, and here I had to decide, okay, do I take back with the knight? Do I take it back with the queen? I decided to take it back with the queen, for the simple idea, okay, I want to protect the d pawn, I want to protect the b pawn, and I want to have the knight actually on c3. So everything went into that direction, that I just take the d pawn with the queen. And now his knight is still attacked, it's still hanging, so he has to retreat it. And here I kind of expected that he goes back to f6, but he plays actually a different move that's also not bad. He's playing the knight to b6. So probably I've already seen that in a situation that he maybe wants to move the knight back into the action to c4. But we will see in a few moves what's happening there. So in this situation I was thinking what to do next, how to develop. Here I was also thinking about, okay, should I maybe play knight to c3 now, because I want the knight to be there. The bishop is gone, so it cannot be traded down, so it sounds like an obvious move. But also I want to develop the other knight to castle and bring the king into a safe position. But here I was thinking, okay, where to go with the knight? Should I go to f3? Should I go to e2? What to do? And then I decided not to play knight f3 because I did not want to basically disrupt the bishop to protect the e4 pawn and to support a push to d5 with the d pawn. Also, I had the idea maybe to play something like f4, f5 later and make some pawn attack on the king's side. So I decided, instead of going to f3, I decided to go with the knight to e2. Okay, so the knight is not a blockader for the f pawn, and it's still protecting the d pawn that might be needed because the queen is already attacking it. So that were a bit my ideas. Then he played as a next move more or less what I expected. He really plays straight away the knight to c4. So I kind of guessed more that he does something like castling or trying to move the other pieces out. But he makes again a move with this knight. It's already the fourth move with that knight. And here I thought a bit what to do with the queen. I mean, I have to move the queen. That is pretty clear. I don't have any other options, but where to go? First I thought, okay, I should go to c3 or maybe b4 to attack the knight like that. But I did not want to do that because of queen a5. Yeah, so then the queen on a5 would pin my queen and force a queen trade. And I did not want to trade down the queen. So I thought it's better to have the queen on the board so that I can have more attack potential and so on. So I thought, okay, where else can I go with the queen? And I have to protect the b2 pawn. So there are just two options, c2 and c1. And I thought, okay, where do I want to go with the queen next? And I thought, okay, it's good when the queen stays on that black diagonal. So I can basically move out to, well, maybe not f4, but maybe g5 could be a good square. Also, if I want later on to push something like the h pawn when there's a short castle, h4, h5, then h6 is protected by the queen. I can move the pawn forward. Ideas like that. So I played the queen to c1 to still be on that diagonal. Then my opponent again played kind of the move that I expected, the aggressive move, queen to a5. So in that situation, not many moves are possible or good, so I don't want to move the king, so I have to move something between, and that can basically just be the b1 knight. And I pretty quickly played this knight to the c3 square, where I want to play it anyway, so I'm not really afraid of things like b5, because I mean then I just castle away. Or when b5 is played now, I probably play first b3 to attack his knight, and when the knight goes away I castle, and then I have, when b4 comes, knight to a4 as an escape square. And okay, the knight is for a short time on the rim, but then I can move the knight back from a4 to c5, and there it's nicely placed. So I'm not really afraid of anything like that. Instead of that, he played also a move that I relatively much expected. He played queen to b4 here and attack again the b2 pawn. In that situation also just one move is pretty obvious. I mean, you can also play rook b1 to protect the pawn, but the b3 move makes more sense because it again attacks the knight, so he has to react, and I get basically the possibility to do something like castling or any other development move. So I played just pretty simple b3. And now he made a move that surprised and confused me a bit. I just show it to you. He played a3, queen a3. Sorry, queen a3, attacking my queen and not retreating the knight. Yeah, so that's surprising, and it is actually a pretty bad move. But it confused me so much that I also did not make a good move, or I made the second best move in that situation. So it's not terrible what I made, but you probably can expect what the best move is. The best move is just b takes c4. Just win that full piece for nothing, for a good position. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward, but this move confused me so much that I didn't do that. Maybe I thought, okay, the queen is not protected. Maybe I forgot that the rook on a1 is just protecting the queen, and I can take the knight. I don't know, maybe I just wanted, I did not want to trade the queens and put that somehow, put a too high priority on that. I don't know. So, but I did not just take the free knight. This is an important lesson because last season similar things happened. So in one match I also threatened in 2 moves to win a piece. My opponent apparently did not see it, made a completely unrelated move that distracted me, and I did not win the piece because I somehow forgot that I set up a trap to win a piece in the next move. So here this is a typical situation where I need to be more concentrated. That when I set up when I create a threat or set up a trap and my opponent obviously doesn't see it, that I at least check if I can use that trap to win material. Yeah. So, but I did not make a horrible mistake. I still found the second best move. You can guess what it is. But I show you. I showed you before that the idea was to place the queen on c1 to be on a diagonal and to activate the queen. So my move was queen to g5. Also, pretty reasonable move in general. So the idea is I threaten to take the g7 pawn, and okay, he can also play the queen to f1 back, or to f8, sorry, the queen to f8 back, so that I don't need to win a second pawn, but at least I win a pawn and destroy the king's position, so he cannot really castle short. So it creates some advantages, but not as much as winning the full piece, of course. The funny thing is I've seen that when he plays queen f8 that I just win the knight. So I kind of have seen that I can win the knight, but somehow I felt like I have to move the queen first. I don't know. Don't ask me what I thought in that situation, but I played it like that. Okay, then in that situation, again a bit strange, he did not retreat the knight, but played again and again aggressive. So he played now here his queen to b2. Okay, that's not really a good move again. But the thing is how to react here. So I thought a bit about rook b1, because then the queen kind of has to retreat again. And then I'm winning the piece. So rook b1 is kind of a very obvious and logical move. On the other hand, my idea or plan was a bit to bring the king to safety, because that's a bit of my playing style, that I just want to finish the development before I do some crazy things and attack. So the rook on a1 is hanging, and by castling I just protect that rook. I develop everything, and so that was the reason why I did the castling. it's not much worse than rook b1 was. And like you see, okay, I have all my pieces developed. King is castled. I have the pawns on d4, e4. My opponent has currently just, okay, one piece traded, two other pieces developed, four pieces are still not moved. So I have pretty much of a development advantage. Materially, it's still equal, just one pawn traded for on every side, but materially it's the material advantage is not that interesting. It's really a big positional and development advantage here for me. Here, my opponent could again retreat the knight, but he plays the knight. He moves the knight, but in a bit strange direction. He moves the knight forward again. Okay, so this knight d2 move attacks my rook, so I need to react here. There's pretty much just one reasonable move I can do, that is moving the f rook to d1 and attack the knight again. So, because why should I move it somewhere else when I can make a counter attack? Yeah, now the knight is basically again hanging. He cannot really meaningfully protect it, so his solution is to get at least as many pawns as possible. So he plays knight takes the b3 pawn. Here I quickly thought, okay, should I play queen takes g7? But the problem is the a rook is attacked by knight and queen, so I kind of have to take back with the knight. Okay, I'm just seeing that actually the computer tells me here that queen g7 is the best move, because when the knight takes, I just get the rook, and then the king kind of has to go to d7, because otherwise the bishop on c8 is falling, and then when the king is on d7, you can play something like d5 and open the file, and I see now probably so queen takes g7 would have been better, but okay, I did not calculate that far. So that's also a bit of a potential where I can get better. Really evaluating, okay, what kind of future attacks can I have and can I create in that situation. So okay, I made the simple move and just taking the knight on b3. I kind of knew, okay, now he can make a defensive move, castle g6, and I'm up a full knight for a pawn. So that's pretty good advantage, and I'm still very much better developed. But he decided in this situation not to make a defensive move and bring the king to safety or save the g-pawn, but he just takes the b3 pawn. So now it's piece for 2 pawns, but in the next move I basically, that's an obvious and logical move, so I don't need to say a lot more to it. I just take with the queen on the g7, square the pawn back, so I get back the advantage of a piece for a pawn, and he makes basically the only move. He moves the rook back to f8, so where it is protected. There's not much else to do. So in this situation, basically everything calmed down. I had all my pieces developed. They're all pretty good in a position. My opponent still did not move most of his pieces. So the question is a bit, okay, what to do now? Of course, I can grab the pawn on h7, but I didn't really want that. I wanted to get it finished as quick as possible and go for a mate. So the question was a bit what to do, and my idea was basically to play d5 to open up the center of the position, so that my rooks can go into the king's position, that also my bishop on g2 can get a bit more active on a diagonal, also by removing the pawn on c6. My knight from c3 can go to b5, maybe also to d5. Yeah, but from b5 there's already some threat like knight to c7 and fork and winning the rook on the a8 square. There's a lot of potential. But I decided here first to make again a bit of an improvement for my rook. So I played rook a to b1. The idea is that I want to attack with the rook the b7 pawn and square, because I thought this is pretty much a weakness. So when I play later on something like d5 and trade down c pawn, I protect then the square for the knight to go to b5. Also, when the e4 pawn is moved, then the bishop and the rook both attack the b7 square. So I decided to make this slight move to get a bit of an additional attack option. So here he decided to move the queen to c4. That was relatively what I expected him to play, and then I made basically the move that I prepared with it. That is a d5 move to open up everything in the center. So there are then a few options where to go. I do not really expect him to trade. Actively, I also do not really want to trade on e6, because then the bishop gets very active. But trading on c6, that was more or less what I planned, because when he trades with a knight, then my knight enters the b5 square, and then I can go to d6 with the fork on the queen, or to c7 with a fork on the rook. And when he trades back the pawn with b takes c6, then his pawns are splitted, so there are more targets again. So that can also be just advantageous for me. So in that position he made a bit of a unexpected move again. So he played bishop d7. So here he just leaves the b pawn where it is, unprotected. So in that situation I thought, okay, if he just gives me that pawn for free, why not take it? The computer already here has a smarter idea. The computer says just play d6, because d6 protects the e7 square, so you can just move something like queen f6, queen e7, and it's mate. And it's pretty hard to defend that square. One idea to defend that square would be e5, so that the queen can retreat to e6. But here the computer is very cool to move the knight to the d5 square, and basically say, okay, I block the queen out, I sacrifice the whole piece, because my queen going to f6 and e7 is just so deadly. I don't care. I did not really see that in this situation, so I decided, okay, I'm just taking the b7 pawn with the rook. And I thought, okay, maybe there are some backup plans. I thought about something like moving the queen to e5, and then so this straight away attacks the knight. So rook b8 would win a knight. But I could also infiltrate then with the queen to, let's say, c7 and attack the bishop from the side. So there are all kinds of relocations of the queen to the center possible, and additional attacking options. So in that situation there are already a lot of threats available impossible. So yeah, there's not really a bad move here in this situation. Here my opponent played something a bit surprising to me, so I did not expect him to trade the pawns. I thought he wanted to have a bit more shields for the king, but he played here c takes d5. Yeah, here it's relatively obvious that I just can't take back with the pawn, so I took back e takes d5. And here he played, yeah, a move. It's kind of logical or expected. Bishop c8. I overlooked it a bit because I did not expect that the bishop is developed back on its initial square. But yeah, it's kind of logical that he wants to remove my rook from there, and that's the only piece he can really attack. So that makes sense. And yeah, you also don't want to trade again on d5, so then you open again more lines, and yeah, it's all not very positive. So he played that, and in this situation I thought, okay, rook is attacked. I do not really want to retreat it. So I could also have played something like rook back to b1, or maybe something like rook to b2 to go to d2 and double up the rooks, and then yeah, try to trade the d pawn and play something like rook to d8, and that also looks pretty much like close to a mate threat. But then I thought, okay, I have my bishop on a diagonal, right? So when I open a diagonal and he plays something like bishop takes b7, and I can play my bishop takes b7, then his rook is just hanging and he cannot really do anything. So I just win the full rook back, and I'm up a piece. And then I thought even a bit further, okay, what happens when I play d6? Yeah, and then I basically found the idea that the computer told me like here 5 moves ago, that d6 is protecting the e7 square, and I can move with the queen to f6 and then to e7, and it's just a mating threat. So in this situation, I figured out what the computer already saw 5 moves ago, that d6 is actually a very good way to create a mating threat here. The thing is, the computer sees here a mate in 6 that is pretty funny. That is rook to e7. The computer just wants to sacrifice the rook here. You have to play king to e7, king takes e7, and then playing d6 with a mate threat. So when the king goes just back to e8 to protect the rook, then queen to f6 threatens mate, and you can just stop it by sacrificing the full queen on c7. And then it's just mate 1 or 2 moves later. Yeah, 1 move later actually. No, 2 moves later. So yeah, and when the king goes to d7, you can just take the rook on f8 with the queen, and you have basically the same mate threat, yeah, with queen e7. So yeah, the computer is here a bit more forceful, but I did not see that. I have only seen d6 with the idea of queen f6, queen e7 mate. But that's, yeah, it's good enough. Let's say it's good enough. It's still forced mate in 11, so not bad. And here he played the knight to d7. Yeah, in that situation, so this kind of stopped my plan of queen to f6, and you can play something like queen to g5, but then f6 stops that, and back queen to g7 is not really working, because now the rook can block on f7. So this mating idea does not really work anymore. So what I decided here to do, is to move the rook, and I decided to move the rook to c7. The computer again says here, okay, you had the idea, the knight destroyed the idea, so why not just take the knight with the rook? And yeah, if you think a bit about it, that's a logical move. Rook takes knight on d7 is the best move. When the king takes, the queen can take the rook on f8, still with a mate threat. You won a piece, you have still a mate threat. It's hard to defend. If the bishop takes, you can go to f6, and then queen e7 is basically unstoppable, so it's also mate. So yeah, this is the best move. I did not find that. I found still a pretty good move. Rook to c7, attacking the queen and opening the diagonal for the bishop. So there are not really many options. So when you move the queen, you're basically down a full rook, and as a next move after bishop takes a8, you can play something like bishop to c6, and then you can just trade down that knight, or play queen to f6 anyway, because the knight is pinned, so nothing can happen, and then you have your mate. And in the worst case, even if you don't really know what to do, this is winning a full rook, or a queen for a rook, or, yeah. And in this situation, my opponent basically lost that much material that he did not really want to play on, and resigned. Yeah, so okay. It's reasonable. So he's losing a lot of material, and objectively it is made in a few moves, most likely. So it's understandable. And yeah, so that is basically the analysis to this game. So I learned some things in the opening, that I need to improve a bit the opening in the one or other situation, because I really do not want to think too much in the opening, where I should move my pieces. I mean, I should be prepared to know the basic concepts a bit better, that I'm not really confused. Also, I learned that when I create a threat, and my opponent does not make the reaction move that I expect, I should just look if he did not see that threat, and if I can just win the material that I've threatened. So yeah, okay. And yeah, I think later on I played pretty well, that I did not see every perfect mating sequence that the computer just tells me here. Okay, yeah, I guess it's fine finding the second or third best move here that's still creating a pretty big advantage, or is then a mate in 12 instead of a mate in 6. Okay, I guess it's good enough to find the moves that are pretty much winning, even if it's not the quickest way to win. So I think in the late game, or okay, it's not really late game, in the middle game, I played pretty well. I'm fine, but yeah, I'm a bit annoyed that I did not play b3 takes the knight on c4, and I'm also a bit annoyed that I played that quickly the c pawn takes the d5 pawn. So that were two early decisions that were, or one decision and one overlooked situation that I'm not really happy with. But except of that, I think the game worked pretty well, and I can continue playing like that. So yeah, that's so much to the game of the first round. So what happens next? I have the second round game in 1 week after I put that game, that video online. And yeah, so just that you know that the other teams are stronger. The team in the next round is still one of the weaker teams in the league. So objectively, if we want to get promoted, we have to win. But they will be tougher. So the opponent will maybe be in my playing strength, maybe bit below, but maximum 100 points or so below me. So yeah, it will be a lot tougher game also for the other players in the team. And yeah, so I will upload the next recap probably then in 2 weeks from now on. And yeah, I hope that we can see each other then. So have a good time, and I would like that you watch also the next video in 2 weeks. So see you.